welcome to Project Recovery, a podcast about addiction. More importantly, it's about recovery. I'm Casey Scott. That's Dr. Matt. Well, you know what they're saying?
What are they
best
saying?
Me in 23.
Well, if it rhymes, it must be true.
Well, you know, Utahns in the world, they love alliteration. You know what I mean? If it rolls
true.
off the tongue, yeah, get it done.
See what
I'm doing there? Hey,
Wow.
welcome back and welcome everybody into the new year. And I got to let you on a little update. The last podcast, I told you that this year I'm taking my health a little more seriously.
Yes.
And so I've already made an appointment. It's January 19th to check my blood, my numbers, my testosterone, and then maybe see about the night of 1,000 waterfalls. Or colonoscopy.
The colonoscopy. Yeah.
Because I thought I had until 50, which is 2 years away. Well, about a year.
I think it's the night of 1,000
Hey, don't.
mudslides.
Yeah. But they're saying you're supposed to do it by 45 now.
Yeah, they lowered the age.
Yeah, and so I guess I'm going to have to.
And I had to do it, so you should have to do it.
Okay, that sounds fair. So how was your New Year's?
It was good.
Everything you thought and more?
It was actually really fun. We got together, Ashley and I went and hung out with friends, her sister, and everybody, and just had a fun night hanging out like old people, you know?
Well, raise your hand if you were in Vegas and in bed by 9:30 on New Year's Eve.
What?
Yeah.
You didn't want to get out and walk around?
I walked around a little bit.
See, like, the street performers?
No, because we were. So here's the deal. We were going to the Rose Bowl.
Yeah.
And so we stopped in Vegas on New Year's Eve, then headed on to Pasadena, and then came back.
Were there a bunch of drunk U of U fans in the hotel in Vegas?
Yeah, quite a bit.
That's actually why I quit taking my kids to U of U football games when they were little. We couldn't find a seat where we weren't around just belligerently drunk.
Well, I think drinking and tailgating and football go hand in hand.
Yeah.
But we had to stay out in Henderson. And for those who don't know, Henderson's kind of a suburb of Las Vegas.
Yeah.
Because everything was like $1,000.
A lot of soccer tournaments in the back in the day in Henderson.
Yeah. So we were at this place called Sunset Station.
I've been there.
Yeah, Sunset Station. They had a bowling alley and
a
Fat Burger and stuff like that. And so we walked around, and my daughter goes, "Hey, how come you went to bed so early?" I was like, well, and I've talked about this on the podcast before, like, I still like a party. I like the golden hour of a party. Now, if you're into photography, there's this golden hour, and golden hour is when everything is just perfect. The lighting and everything, and you go, it's either in the morning or in the evening. And it's just when everything is right.
It's a lighting thing.
Yep. But there's a golden hour when it comes to partying.
Okay.
And that's just when everything is right. And you know what I mean? People are still happy. Before it unravels. And everybody's like, hey, I haven't seen you for a while. Good to see you. Yeah. What's going on? Hugs and everything and catching up. And then after that golden hour, it just turns ugly.
Yeah.
And so Vegas gets ugly quick. You know, and so
Vegas is kind of ugly 24/7. But
so for me, I was like, I'm going to hang out. When we walked around, had some dinner, played a little at the tables, and at 9:30, I looked at my girlfriend.
But you're a gambler, so that's kind of why I'm surprised you weren't out later. You like to gamble,
but to the point where they jack up the tables, and it's amateur hour, so everybody's at the table. So what would normally be a $5 table is a $15 table, and you're waiting in lines, and you're playing with people who don't really understand the game, and so they're messing up the rhythm. I'm just going to be honest with you. So I'm like, I'm out.
So have we talked about gambling addictions on this show?
We have.
We have. Okay.
Yeah. But I walked away.
You did it.
But I do like gambling. I like gambling on sports and stuff like that. And so I was like, it's just not really my thing. And then we got up early and we went on to Pasadena and had a great time. The thing that you asked me, you said off air, you said, what did you like most about the Rose Bowl?
Right.
And I kind of stumbled on an answer. I wasn't sure. And in retrospect, thinking about it now, the fact that I got the chance to take my oldest daughter with me down to the Rose Bowl, because I had to do some work for KSL TV down there. We did the parade and talked to some fans and kind of talked about the road trip down there for those, because many people
did some grief counseling afterwards.
Yeah. Is the fact that the young lady who wrote that letter that went viral so many years ago wanted to go hang out with her dad on New Year's Eve.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
She brought her boyfriend.
I was going to say, she had some luggage with her, right?
Yeah, her boyfriend, which is weird because they're both 18.
Yeah, they're 18.
You know, and so right before we were getting ready to go, I was talking to the lovely Leslie, and that's my girlfriend.
Yeah.
And she was, so what are the sleeping arrangements going to be?
I was just going to ask.
And I was like, I really haven't thought about that.
He can stay in the car.
And so my first
Do you like him?
I do like him.
Yeah?
They get along well.
Other than the fact that she likes him, what do you like about him?
He's a hard worker.
Okay.
He's polite, and he's up for just about anything.
All right.
And the main reason I like him, and I've told him this.
Will he look you in the eye, shake your hand, all that stuff?
Yep. And the main reason I like him is he makes my daughter happy.
No, that is not the main reason.
But here's
it's the shaking the hand and looking in the eye and being respectful.
I like that. But I went to him, and when this first started, I go, I like you because you make my daughter happy. If you make my daughter unhappy, I will not like you. You understand
fair.
that?
That's fair.
And that's one of those things where I held his hand and looked him in the eyes the whole time. Mm-hmm. Said, I'm just letting you know that you're in good graces because...
Was it one of those uncomfortable handshakes where you wouldn't let go?
Yes.
Oh, I wish I'd have seen that.
So back to the room assignments.
Yeah.
There were 7 of us that went down, so we had 2 rooms. We had lovely Leslie, her 2 kids and a friend, my girlfriend, my daughter, and her boyfriend.
Okay.
And so we had to figure out how to get 7 people in 2 rooms.
All right.
And make sure that everybody was happy. Nobody wants to sleep with the parents, but I'm paying, so somebody's got to.
Right.
So my first idea was me and Ashton will sleep in the same bed.
Ashton's the boyfriend.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then I thought that's probably not a good idea.
Your little spoon?
He is taller than me.
Okay.
But no. So I was like, well, I'm probably not going to sleep in the same bed as my daughter's boyfriend.
Yeah, that's a little weird.
So then I was like, well, maybe I'll make him sleep on the floor. She gets to bed, he sleeps on the floor. And then I was like, well, that's kind of rude. And then I thought, well, maybe I make his head be down by her feet. But they can sleep in the same bed.
You need to watch Seinfeld.
And so I haven't seen this one. So I was like, but come on. And then I was talking to my girlfriend, and it's the same advice I give it to her when we're talking about her kids who are 19 and 22. I said, at this point, they're considered adults. She's 18. What am I going to do?
Right.
And, I don't know what's going on. So I just said, you're under the sheets. He's on top of the sheets. And I'm here, and I'm a light sleeper.
So it's like a double queen.
Oh, yeah, double queen. Yeah,
okay.
they were in the room with us.
Yeah. Okay.
And so I said, and if I hear any nonsense,
I'm
going to throw punches and ask questions later.
Okay. All right.
And he was cool.
How'd it work out? I
didn't throw any punches.
You a snorer?
Yeah.
Did you keep him awake all night?
I'm a pretty good snorer.
Why didn't you just get another room?
Because I'm already paying for 2. I didn't want to pay for 3.
Come on, you're a big celebrity.
No, I'm not. And I'm notoriously cheap. If I could have a coin purse, I would.
Yeah.
But nobody has coin anymore. And that brings me to another thing. You're walking around Vegas where there's a lot of homeless and everybody wants change. I'm like, bro, you got to switch it up. Nobody's got change.
Got to get some Venmo.
Yeah.
Right?
And that's hard to vet. So, but all in all, it was good. The best part about the Rose Bowl was hanging out with my family, being present in the moment, and doing something that we'll never forget. Because although the Utes lost, it was an experience. We saw the Rose Bowl parade. Mm-hmm. We spent a lot of time talking, listening to music, and getting to know each other. And so for that, I'm very grateful. I think a road
trip is great for getting to know people, potentially at least. I think you handled it well. Do you feel like you did?
Yeah.
Because you got to have that experience, and you also got to interact with her boyfriend. I think a lot of parents don't take the time to get to know their kids' boyfriends or girlfriends.
Yeah.
And I think that's a mistake.
Well, I want to get to know him.
Yeah. Well, so you should have slept in the same bed with him. No, I think you handled that pretty well. That sounds all right.
I didn't know what else to do.
No,
I remember telling my ex-wife, she's like,
they get the rollaway. They got the rollaway?
Oh.
Could have pulled that in. Couch? Is there a couch in that room?
No.
Oh.
The rollaway would have been the key.
Yeah, it's like $25 usually, though. Vegas sticks you for everything.
Oh, my gosh.
Have we talked about how much I like Vegas?
I love Vegas.
Yeah, I know you do.
Hey, so you've got this minute thing that we're going to do. Are you ready for it?
Yeah, if you want to.
I want to do it right now.
Okay. Well, I just thought it'd be fun to kind of check in on some mental health stuff, and so I have a couple little marijuana things because I know.
But you're calling this a mental health minute.
Mental health minute.
Because now you're doing TikToks for the university.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, if we still are, since China owns them and the governor said no.
Yeah.
No.
Okay. But let's see what you got here for the mental health minute.
Josh just had a heart attack.
Yeah, he's like, no. Okay, what do we got?
All right, mental health minute. Here we go. So a couple of things that I thought would be interesting to talk about. One is CBD. CBD's everywhere. Everybody's like, oh, CBD, that's cool. Everybody can have CBD.
And for me, CBD is just the new essential oil.
Yeah, well, that's the problem is now the FDA, Food and Drug Administration, is pretty concerned about kind of what active ingredients of the CBD is doing in all these supplements and food additives. And so they're now, this is just a news report, it's not a study, that probably in 2023 they're going to start regulating CBD. And there's a difference, I learned in reading through this, that CBD can come from marijuana or hemp, and there's a difference in the quality of CBD.
Well,
of
I
what
know
it
for
does
some people who do CBD, there is some active marijuana in some of that.
Yeah, it depends on which plant it comes from. You know, so people think marijuana and what was the other one I just said?
Hemp,
that they're the same. They're not the same. They're very similar, but they're not the same. And the marijuana, if your CBD comes from marijuana, it's going to have more of an activating effect on you than if it comes from hemp.
I'm gonna date myself, but do you remember the movie called My Big Fat Greek Wedding?
Yeah.
And father who always sprayed Windex on everything?
Yeah.
That's pretty much CBD.
Yeah, there you go.
He's like, I got allergies. Have you tried CBD? I got a bad knee. Have you tried CBD?
Yeah, so it's nonsense. I mean, it does something, but what it does, everybody, it's snake oil of the modern era, and if that offends you, I'm sorry, but CBD needs to be regulated, and it looks like they think that it needs to be regulated now. So that's one thing.
What do you got for us next?
Okay, you in a hurry?
No,
going somewhere?
No.
All right. So the next one is a little more serious, and I'm curious if you. I'm going to quiz you guys. Everybody can.
So we've got our guests here, Amanda and Trevor. So if they know the answer,
they can jump in.
They'll be my lifeline.
Yeah, and Josh, he's post-COVID, so I don't know if his brain's working too well. But if he wants to jump in, he can. But here's in 2017.
Good year.
All across the nation, there were 207 reports of children ages 5 or younger who accidentally ingested edible cannabis, right? So edibles.
Yeah.
Right. And
because
so,
they make them like candy. So there's gummy bears, there's gummy worms,
all that. So it looks like candy.
Yeah.
And so people have them in their homes, and, probably legally. You can get them legally now in a lot of states. And they have them in their homes. 207 reports. Now, it went up from 2017 to 2021. That increased the number of calls, worries about young kids under 5 ingesting edibles. How many cases? 207 in 2017. How many do you think in 2021?
Ooh, I don't have to say in the thousands. I'm like 20,000.
20,000?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, you jumped the shark on that.
Oh.
3,054. I guess I should have let them guess.
Yeah.
Well, so in stats numbers, that's a 1,400% increase.
Wow.
In just those years. And most of those, 97% were or 90% were in their own home, and 97% were in homes generally. So they might have been visiting a friend or a relative. But 90% of those 3,000 calls were happening in the kid's own home.
Well, I know why, because kids are super soothsayers. They can find that stuff. I had an ability to find candy hidden in my house because it didn't matter where it was, because you leave kids unattended, they're going to search everywhere looking for candy. I remember the one time I found baking chocolate, thinking it was chocolate, took a bite, and I was like,
we all did that.
This sucks.
Yeah, it was terrible.
But I had to find it. It was hidden behind some stuff, but I was willing to look.
Behind the stale marshmallows.
Yes.
Yeah. Right. Well, I think what it really tells us is parents aren't locking up things that they need to lock up. We've known parents have done that forever with alcohol. Unfortunately, I work in a business where I know that they do that with guns, and that's pretty dangerous. But now with medical marijuana, I don't know. This doesn't even say medical marijuana. I'm going to assume these people, have a reason to have a bunch of gummies in their house, but they're not locking them up. And they, more than anything, look like candy. So a 1,400% increase in just those few years, 4 years.
It's interesting that I think that all gummies would be considered medical marijuana, because I don't think the average street dealer is sitting around making gummy worm marijuana.
Right. It's probably purchased for, Yeah.
It's recreational, but it's manufactured by some company.
Right. So it's really natural, huh? Anyway, last thing that I have to say.
Wow. Didn't even see that one coming.
Well, the truth is I've had a hard week.
Yeah.
Because I've had to deal with 2 different families in this last week where the parents wanted me to agree that it was okay that they were smoking weed with their kids. Now, what do you think about that?
I don't think that's good at all.
Guess what do you guys think about that?
No, I don't think that's good.
You can disagree with me. I'll be nice to you.
No, I mean, what are you teaching your kids?
Right.
You know?
Well, it's what you're teaching them, right? But it's also what you're doing to their brain. And we forget the fact that brains go through critical periods of development, and they develop, especially the frontal lobes, which is your most human part. Like if you're going to be a successful adult, your frontal lobes need to be intact. And that's the last part of your brain to develop. Focus, concentration, reason, problem solving.
And that doesn't fully develop until you're what, 24, 25?
24, 25. And so if you are smoking weed, and one of them was a middle school kid.
And I mean, I don't know, but I can assume that the families are doing it thinking, because
it's the same old logic from
I'd
the
rather
70s
have them do it
and
with
80s.
me than with some stranger.
With alcohol back in the day, right?
Yeah.
Remember when we were growing up and there
Yeah.
was always some parent that was like, well, you can do it here. We just don't want you to go somewhere else.
Yeah.
And that's such a fundamental misunderstanding of what's happening when a young kid's drinking alcohol and getting, wasted, or a young kid's learning to smoke marijuana, and it changes your synapses. It does. And it's not a good change. So anyway, I'm a little sensitive this week on this is everywhere. To the point that I saw that article and I was like, oh my gosh, I've got to bring up the fact that people are leaving marijuana gummies out and kids are eating them. Not just a little bit, but 1,400% increase in 4 years.
That's insane.
Yeah, anyway. And then the last one, this is my favorite. This is from the Brazilian Longitudinal Study of Adult Health, so you know it's good.
I haven't got my episode yet.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, you should check it out. And I want you to see if you can find the conspiracy theory in this.
Okay.
Vegetarians suffer more depression than meat eaters. That's the study. The study's finding basically is that vegetarians suffer more depression than meat eaters. And it's from the Brazilian Longitudinal Study of Adult Health. Where's the conspiracy theory in that? Rodizio Grill. I think Rodizio Grill probably spawned. No, I'm just
I'll tell you what, you take bacon away from anybody, they're depressed.
Well, actually, they go on to say that it may be more the vegetarian social experience. And or a depressed person actually may be more likely to become vegetarian for various reasons. I don't know. But I thought it was interesting.
Did they interview all these vegetarians at a barbecue? Because that's a depressing scene.
They were kind of saying that. Like a lot of vegetarians get bummed out by watching how meat is manufactured for people and all of that. But anyway, I just thought it was kind of interesting and fun.
I like
to know.
it.
I all the vegetarians I know, I was thinking about it, that are pretty strict. They're pretty happy. So
Yeah.
I don't know.
I think it's a choice. It's perspective, Dr. Matt.
Yeah. So there you go. There's your mental health minute. Don't leave your your
Gummies.
gummy weed out, and if you're sad, have some meat.
Oh, I love it. I think that's a great segue to our guests.
Yeah.
And our guests today are married. We've got Amanda and we've got Trevor Butterfield. And their story is kind of unique in the fact that we're not going to go and talk about how they both got into addiction.
We usually go way back in a person's life and kind of start with the early stuff, but they have an interesting
They were both addicts.
Right.
They got sober. They got together.
Right.
They relapsed
together.
Right. And
at least once or twice.
Twice.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to find out that part of their story. You're listening to Project Recovery. Stick around. Hey, welcome back to Project Recovery. I'm Casey Scott. That's Dr. Matt Woolley. He's a clinical psychologist, and our guests today are married.
They are married.
They are married.
And they are a really nice couple.
A wonderful couple.
Yeah.
And you guys met in recovery. Amanda, how long were you sober before you met Trevor?
I was about 2 years sober.
And Trevor, you were?
I had about 5 months. Something like 4 or 5
It was
months.
like 90. You were still in treatment.
I was in treatment for 121 days.
Oh, yeah, okay,
so,
okay.
to be fair, it was like right towards the end. So I had like 4 months.
Okay, and so you guys find each other. And
At Sober Softball.
Sober softball, yeah.
Sober softball's a thing, guys.
Yep.
We haven't talked about it for a while, but
Your face always lights up when we bring up
because
sober
I didn't know
softball.
people played softball sober.
He got so excited.
And then when I found out that that's a big deal, and
Yeah.
I mean, the recovery community rallies behind sober softball. I mean, there's people that have been going for years.
It's a big deal.
And it's cool because it's a cool community where you'll see people from different houses. You got to kind of. It's kind of like high school sports because when you go to a sober softball game, it's different recovery houses that have their teams. So you'll have a Pinnacle Recovery going against a Wasatch. You'll
Do they
have
have
a Wasatch.
uniforms?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so it's kind of a thing. So you guys met at sober softball.
Opposite teams. That's how we met.
Okay.
I was catcher.
Yeah.
Our versions of the story are very different, just to be clear, even to this day. So 8 years later, I feel like he was very forthright. Forward. Is that the word?
He was just
What's the word?
not a word.
Yeah, thank you. He was forward
he was
and
into you.
flirting, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And he claims that I was like all over him, which
Right.
Which she knows
is
to
just
be
not
true.
accurate. See
Men,
what I mean?
we have more fragile egos. So
That's
we have to
totally-
sort of reinvent history to kind of fit that ego status. Yeah. So.
Yeah.
Well, when you were gone, Trevor said you kept running to his base and you weren't even out on the field.
Yeah.
He literally was like, I'll slide butt first into first. And I was like, what is this? Okay. Like, go for it. Make yourself look stupid. I
You
don't
tell
care.
him what I
you
did
know?
after that?
And then he actually hit a home run and like walked the bases and was like staring me down every single base. And I couldn't even say anything, you know?
So it seems like it started out great.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then what happened?
Wait, who won the game?
Oh, we did.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, my team was terrible.
Awful.
Absolutely
Absolutely
garbage.
horrendous,
Yeah.
Okay. So you had to get that out of the way.
Yeah.
But you guys end up, I guess, falling in love?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And,
Well, who asked for whose number? Was it right at the game? Was it right, like...
Well, to be fair, I didn't have a phone. I was in treatment. You know? But I got you gave me yours, yeah. And I was calling her from the house phone in treatment.
Yeah.
Why?
While she was working at another
I was
facility,
working,
by the way.
So, and I was like, this is so tacky, so cliche. So I was kind of like, oh, I can't tell anyone. You know, there's kind of like an unspoken rule. You got to wait a year at least.
Sure.
And so I'm this person who has 2 years, and I'm like going for this newcomer who has, you know, a couple days. I mean, a couple months. But it was.
And so, for those who don't know, and I can speak from experience, when you're in a recovery center, you get phone privileges on certain days. Mine were on Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Sunday.
Okay.
And that's when I was allowed to call my family, call KSL to see if I still had a job, just, you know what I mean, to call, you know, court, lawyers, or whatever.
Yeah, I don't remember you calling me.
No, because, no. Okay. So you were taking your time allotment for the phone and calling this girl you met at sober softball.
Instead of lawyers and attorneys.
Yeah, well, I got lucky. That's another story. But you have to get the numbers approved, right? Through your therapist. So she worked at a facility. I told them that I was calling that number to get into a sober living.
Which was
And
true.
that was
He
the move.
tried. He did try.
I did try.
And again, this is another story of the like version of the story. He thinks that I said that the clinical director said he couldn't come. I actually went to the clinical director, and he was like, "Sorry, he cannot come here."
Because you guys are dating. That's probably not good.
Well, and he didn't know that, but he'd gone to that facility before and left against medical advice.
He saw him slide butt first into first base.
Yeah,
and he was
totally.
like,
We don't
He's
need
like,
that
"You
on the
can't."
softball team.
Absolutely,
No way.
absolutely. He's like, get him out of here.
Yeah.
So, yeah. But I did ask him. He's like, you probably didn't even ask him. And I was like, I actually
still
did.
don't think she did.
See?
Okay, so you guys get out of recovery and you guys start dating. Now, in the recovery world, they say the 13th step is a bad step, and that's dating somebody fresh out of
Right.
recovery. They say to take a year time to kind of figure out who you are, get your bearings straight, and kind of get your side of the street cleaned up before you go over to
Right.
somebody else's.
Do you guys think generally that's good advice?
100%.
Yeah,
I do, yeah.
I think because especially where you come from, where you just have no idea. Like my whole identity was using, right? It was like being on the streets and heroin and all that and, you know, all that encaptures. And so to really get to know myself, like I didn't know what that was. And so especially I think, you know, getting that validation, like it just is.
Well, you're creating a new identity.
Totally.
And unless you come to your addiction later in life, most people start and are high in their addiction during their identity development times, right? Your teenagers and your early 20s, that's when a lot of people are heavy in their addiction. And that's when we're supposed to be figuring out who we are. So people come out of recovery and they're like, okay, I'm sober, but my identity has to change.
But I understand why an addict would think that dating somebody new in recovery is a good idea. Because in your head, well, you know, for a lot of people I've talked to,
They can relate to me.
they can relate to me. There's strength in numbers.
Yeah.
I'll hold you accountable. You'll hold me accountable. It's like a gym buddy. You know what I mean? We're going to be accountability buddies. And but we get to sleep with each other. But the reality is that you're both so fragile. And so now
Right. So there may be some of that where you can support each other.
Well, that's the sales pitch to get everybody into it.
Right.
Nobody ever talks about the bad. Is that if you fall, I'm more likely to fall.
So I have a feeling we get to talk about the bad. So how did it go, guys?
So we made it. I made it to 2 years that time. So I made it.
Together. We
together,
were
2 years together sober after we started dating.
And was it like, to describe that relation, like were you living in your own places, doing your own thing, or did you move in together right away?
No, I had my apartment, and he was living with a group of his friends. Yep. And at that point, we were both working in the recovery community as well.
Just getting started working in treatment.
Mm-hmm. We still had separate like support groups and friend groups, so I feel like it was pretty healthy considering.
So you didn't rush right into like a committed relationship.
Plain house.
Yeah, totally.
No.
Totally.
I had seen that fail one too many times.
And so you say you got about 2 years together.
Yeah.
Which, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Right.
That's really good. How does it not become good?
So we moved in together.
He was quick with the answer. She's like, we moved in together.
Well, that was the second time. The first time I went to the Center for Change and had to have surgery, remember? So I've struggled with an eating disorder since before my addiction even. And so I went to treatment at the Center for Change in Orem, which is an eating disorder
We've had them on.
Them on the show,
So I went there. I mean, they're great.
Yeah.
Totally love
fantastic.
Wonderful
them.
program.
And went there and had to have surgery. And so Trevor would come visit me, and even he was my number one support for that. He's had his two sisters both had eating disorders, so he just knew kind of how to support. And so I went there, was there for 4 months. Yeah, 4 months, and then had to have surgery right after that from eating disorder behaviors.
Complicated.
So was in the hospital for 6 days, was put on Dilaudid, and I purposely. Like, looking back, I purposely did not tell my doctor I was an addict. Like, there was something in that voice inside me was like, awesome, this is a freebie,
So you remember kind of holding that information back?
I'm 4 years sober. Well, and I remember because the day of the surgery, my dad was like, hey, did you tell the doctor you're an addict? And I was like, well, no, I'm 4 years sober. Like, almost 4 years, why do I need to do that, And he was kind of like, okay, yeah, I guess that makes sense.
But in your mind, it's like playing a game of Monopoly, having that get out of jail free card.
Well, it's back to that whole prescription thing. Like, like we trust... And this isn't a negative for docs, but like we trust the doctor, we trust the process. They're in charge, and so it's easy to get back into using prescriptions.
So they give you Dilaudid.
Yep. And so then I got released with a prescription, and my parents, I moved back home at this point.
Now, I'm naive, I guess, when it comes to this. Dilaudid is a pill? I always assumed it was an injectable.
So they gave me
They had the line in.
Yeah, they had the
she
line.
left, she got like a prescription for Percocet or something like that when she left.
Okay.
And my parents had the prescription, because I moved back home. And so they had the prescription, so they were kind of giving it to me. But when that script ran out, I felt like I was in withdrawal. Like, it was pretty crazy. I think I was on it for 2 or 3 weeks after. Yeah. They only gave me a short, amount, not a ton of pills. And I was like, I feel like crap, And so...
but that's that receptors thing.
Totally.
So your brain recognized that. It's different than if you had never had an opiate pain management medicine before that, and that was the first time. But you had your brain had grown up or developed using it. And so it's kind of it's hypervigilant. And as soon as that gets back in your system, you've got pain receptors that are geared for that. So you probably were going through withdrawals.
So prescription run out. What does that mean for you?
So then we moved in together.
That was what I was saying.
Yeah. So then we moved in together, and it was within not very long, couple weeks.
No, it was probably a month or two, because I was working in treatment. I just left Wasatch. Yeah.
So walk me through the moment you guys look each other in the eye and decide
it's time.
Yeah.
Well, I had moved home not for treatment, but I got rid of my apartment while I was in treatment, and then moved home. And I love my parents, but we just did better when I was not there. Sure. And I'm at this point 24, 20. I'm like, it's time. And so do you remember how that conversation went or what that was?
We can't pinpoint it. We've talked about this a lot to try and figure out the exact moment as to when it happened, but it was kind of just it started with, well, She was saying she wasn't feeling good, or she hadn't felt good.
I'm talking about moving in. Now you're talking about...
I'm talking about walking me through the time when you guys looked at each other in the eye and said,
we're going to relapse.
We're going to relapse.
Okay,
Yeah, that's
I'm
what
with you.
saying.
Okay, sorry.
And I guess, I don't remember how it started, but we went to go find pills.
Well, we drank first.
Oh, we drank first. That's right. We drank first.
And then the next day.
Which, like I said, I've hated the entire time. So when I drank, I was like, I don't even like this. So why did I do it? And then the next day I was like, well,
let's go find
we already screwed up.
Yeah.
Might as well.
It's that all or nothing mentality.
Just that black or white thinking where I just go straight. Well, let's go find what we really like.
Yeah.
And there were no pills to be found.
And we can just do it once. We'll just do it the one time and we'll be good.
Yeah.
And then we'll figure it all out.
Isn't that just...
It's insane.
It's so cliche, but that in that moment when your brain is jonesing for that fix, then that means something real to you. Like, we'll just do it once. But that's a lie everybody tells.
But that's the crazy thing is that you believe it. That you're like,
outside of the moment, it sounds silly.
Insane,
But in that moment, it's like, this is a good idea.
I wasn't there, but I bet you guys looked at each other and goes, we'll just do it once.
Yeah.
We'll just do it once.
Yeah.
Right? We can do that. Well, we can totally do that. We've got this. And then you start touting all the stuff that you've done to get to this point.
Totally.
Not realizing that's the exact reason why you shouldn't, but you're using that as justification for why you should.
Yeah.
It's like, look how far we've come. Come on.
Totally.
One time.
Yep.
Just one time.
Yep.
And then we were like, well, we couldn't get heroin if we wanted to, right? Because she's been out of it for 4 years. I've been out of it for 2.
Out of the game.
Out of the game. But the game didn't change. It was simple. Drive downtown, we had it in 2 minutes. Less than 2 minutes. And then it was just off and running from there.
And then the justifications still come, right? Well, we're only smoking it right now, where we really like to shoot it. So if we're just smoking, it's okay.
Yeah, then it's
fine.
okay.
Yeah.
You know what? I think there are a lot of people here in Salt Lake who maybe if they were to hear you say that wouldn't believe that you could drive downtown and get it in 2 minutes.
You mean on my way to walk to a Jazz game, I could score heroin?
I think there's a huge percentage of the population that has no idea that it's that prevalent and that available.
Totally.
And it is if you're a person, I will go, out on a limb and let everybody know I've never bought heroin.
Me neither.
So I don't know
good for you.
how you would do it. But I have been I've worked with people long enough to know that it is available right now if you want it. Like, you can have it right now. And I just think that's interesting. I think there are a lot of people in our community that need to be told that.
Well, you think about it. She just said she's been out of the game for 4. He'd been out of the game for 2 years. Yep. Didn't think they could get it. And within minutes, minutes, not hours.
No, minutes.
Minutes.
Yeah. It's not a big time commitment.
No.
It got some heroin. And then it was off to the races. But you're lying to
But they were just smoking it.
Yes.
They didn't.
That doesn't count.
Yeah, it doesn't count.
Yep.
And then how does it progress from smoking it to shooting it?
The guilt.
Yeah.
I think the guilt and the shame and the lies and the trying. I mean, my family lives in Seattle, right? I'll use this story as an example. So how long were we using for when that happened?
4 or 5 months.
No, well, maybe.
Yeah, because we then started, we obviously lost our jobs in recovery, started serving tables. He was really good at it.
I gotta stop you because I love how you go, we obviously lost our jobs in recovery.
Obviously.
Well, I had quit prior.
Yeah, you did quit.
I quit-
but
I quit
didn't.
prior,
I waited
but
till I was drug tested and the hair follicle, the whole thing. Well, I can't pee right now. Okay, well, then we'll go do a hair follicle
Which
test.
is the
Okay,
biggest
great.
scam in drug testing history. I can't pee right now.
Totally.
I can pee right now. Anybody can pee whenever they want.
Right.
I can't pee right now.
They're like, well, we can't wait around all day. So I'm like, well, what do you want to do? We could just skip it, And they're like, no, just go get your hair tested. I was like, okay. And then I'm like thinking, well, I've dyed my hair, so I should be all good, right? Like, I don't know what I'm talking about. So
out of her mind.
yeah. So then we started serving tables, and we were like both. I struggled with it. He was really good, and so then we had cash daily, right? And so I feel like it was probably maybe 4 months. Maybe
It might have been 4. But we had, all that money we were earning was going to drugs. And we had just gotten a place together. So how were we explaining affording that, right? So, I had reached out to my parents and they, okay, yeah, times are hard. We'll help you this time, and it kind of spiraled down. And my mom had asked me, hey, are you guys doing okay? You're not going around, I'm from Seattle, but my entire family's out here. My parents are from Pleasant Grove, born and raised. So extended family, everyone's here. So we weren't going around them anymore. And my grandma had noticed and said, yeah, we're doing fine. We're just busy with work, all the excuses that everybody always says. And I'll never forget, it was the middle of the day randomly. And I get a knock on the door and I was like, instantly, I'm like, oh, it's the cops.
Yeah, we both were like, we're not answering that. Yeah.
Like, if we don't answer, they'll go away.
Totally.
Oh, it just kept knocking. And I'm not even exaggerating when I say it was 20 minutes. 20 minutes of
was
just
longer than
knocking,
that.
probably longer. And I get a text, and it was my mom. And she said, I'm not leaving till you open the door.
So she had flown
down,
out,
not said a word. She had no
mother's
proof.
intuition.
Mother's intuition.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what it was. And I remember opening the door, and she just looked at me, and I started sobbing, right? And she said, let's get you help. And that's kind of where it started when we got sober again.
Moms are the best.
They are. Yeah, my mom is.
Hey, you're listening to Project Recovery. This is Amanda and Trevor's story. We got more. Stick around. Hey, welcome back to Project Recovery. I'm Casey Scott. That's Dr. Matt Woolley. Our guest today is Trevor and Amanda Butterfield. And they just talked about Trevor's mom flying across the country.
On her intuition.
On intuition, knocking on your door steadily for 20 to 30 minutes. She opens the door. You both cry. She said, let's get you help.
Yeah. So we went to separate facilities.
Well, wait, okay, so she said, let's get you guys help, and she met Amanda as well?
She met Amanda as well, yeah.
I had a really good relationship with them. Always have, so they I feel like they kind of adopted me as a daughter even when we were just dating. So...
And so it was.
So do you guys go willingly, or just the gig is up and you're like, yep?
It was I think it was a week later.
Yeah,
we went.
Yeah,
we were like, we need a couple
to pack
of days.
up our whole place. I mean, we did that whole leave in the middle of the night and deal with the consequences later.
Yeah.
With the lease and all that good stuff, which took a long time to fix. But we both went into treatment centers a week later. Yeah,
and you went into separate treatment centers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we went to separate treatment centers.
Did you do that on purpose?
Yeah.
I don't know of anywhere that will treat you both.
Most of them won't.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're not.
Well, I know that. I just know that they're capable of bending the truth at this point.
We did do that in detox.
We did that for a
once.
detox once way back when, but
I went in 10 minutes before, kind of a thing.
Yeah.
I don't
Actually.
know.
Yeah, and then the second day we're like, we got to get out of here.
Yeah,
We're sleeping in the same bed.
Yeah. We're like, we're going to leave now. And they're like, you guys can't leave together. I'm like, well, we came together.
Yeah, we're together. And they were just sitting there like,
what?
How did you do that?
Yeah.
I'm like, well, let us leave.
Yeah.
But I also bring it up just because that also represents maybe a better mindset.
Totally.
Like you guys were like, hey, we know we shouldn't try to go together.
For sure.
Yeah.
And we thought we were done. And we really did, because it was, a shorter.
You thought your relationship was done?
No.
Or
with drugs, yeah.
Yeah, using. I mean, we knew that the chances of us succeeding together in a relationship were slim to none. But we still were like, let's go focus on ourselves, figure out what we need to do, and we'll deal with it afterwards. And I did 45 days. She did 30 days. She went to a different sober living. I went to a different sober living. And then we spent a little bit of time apart.
My therapist made me break up with you while we were in there, remember?
Yeah, Yeah, he had her call me in the middle of process group and break up with me.
It's my therapist.
Yeah, literally. I'm like, so
in the middle of
if I want
process
this
group.
back,
Everybody was there?
Everyone was there.
Yeah.
Wow. So we've all been broken up with before, but not in a process group on speaker.
Not my best moment.
Oh, rough.
It was awful. It was horrible.
Sorry.
And it blindsided me. I just talked to her the night before. Yeah, I love you, baby. I'll see you when we get out. And then the next day, it's like, we're done.
Sorry about that.
And I was like, all right, then.
It was awful, he says.
But we only made it, a month apart?
Yeah, literally.
And then we were back together.
Yeah.
So then we had, we were living separately, and we decided we would rent a place with our friend. So him and his
also in recovery.
He was also in recovery. Him and his girlfriend would live together, and they would have their space, and we would have our space. No, I'm talking about Drew.
Oh.
And so we had found out that we were pregnant. And I talk about, when I tell my story or talk about it, I talk about the what ifs, or the if this happens, that I've always had in the back of my head, right? And one of my what ifs was, I will use if I happen to lose a kid or someone close to me dies. And we ended up having a miscarriage. So in my mind, it was in the back of it, right? And I automatically was like,
you had it loaded.
That's it. I had set myself up for something that I had prayed would never happen and hope would never happen, but it was there. So instantly, my reaction was, I'm going to go get high, because this wasn't supposed to happen.
And I couldn't deal. You couldn't deal with it.
And we dealt with it separate ways.
Totally different. I couldn't hold still. Like, I couldn't.
Yeah.
And I was 12 weeks, right? Like, so we were kind of through that excited part. And due to my eating disorder behavior, I never thought I would, like, I was told, like, your chances of having kids are low. You've kind of you've wreaked havoc on your body, with drugs and the eating disorder stuff. And so I couldn't hold still. Like, I was constantly going, and he just was like, I don't want to do anything, you know? So So we were like,
and we had just told our families, and everybody, was excited, and it hit us.
Yeah.
It hit us really hard.
Oh, that's devastating.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So we relapsed.
Well, we broke up first.
We broke up first, yeah.
Got back together. Relapsed.
Yeah. We broke up over the miscarriage.
Yeah.
We were just kind of, let's take some time to figure this out separately. And then, of course, when we got back together, we figured it out by using drugs. And so that run didn't last very long.
Well, we didn't go to treatment after that.
No, I'm saying our use, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I'm saying our use, that run of using when we relapsed didn't last super long. We were out for, this time it might, a couple months maybe, and we knew that we needed help, but at this point I was just off my parents' insurance. I didn't have a job. I wasn't insured. I didn't know where to go. So I called the owner of a treatment center over and over and over, and I actually worked at the treatment center, Wasatch Recovery. And I called Mark, the owner, for probably 3 weeks straight.
Well, we found out we were expecting again.
But this was after I started calling Mark, so that's when I
Okay.
So, well, there's that.
Spoiler.
I started calling Mark for 3 weeks straight. No, not taking you. You used to work here. This is weird. I can't scholarship you. You can't do it. Amanda was trying to figure out what she was going to do too, and then we found out she was pregnant. And I was like, we have to figure something out, because it's just we're not going to be those parents that continue to use while you're pregnant and put this kid's life in jeopardy. We already lost one kid. We can't do anything to lose another. And it was so weird because we had found out, and I had called Mark for 3 weeks at this point, and I called him and he didn't answer. And I was like, he had answered every time and just basically told me no, and then hung up, right? All of a sudden we're sitting in the Smith's parking lot, I still remember, and Mark calls me. And I was like, he said, I don't know why I'm doing this, but I will, if you're here by 10 a.m. tomorrow, you can come and I'll scholarship you. Treatment, sober living, aftercare, all of that. And Amanda simultaneously, in the craziest way, had gotten a call to go to Idaho to go live with her cousin, who's also in recovery, to get sober out there. So we both had our separate paths, but we found an option to be able to get sober. And
at the time, we're homeless, right? Like that, our friend that we were living with his girlfriend, they were like, you can't, like, it's super hard to be around, like, because we're just hidden in our room using.
Rightfully so.
So we're homeless. We're like getting hotels every now and again. Yeah. We're sleeping in the car. We have our dog, just sleeping in the back. We'd like make arrangements and just find somewhere safe to be. So at this point, we were like, okay, there's a little bit of hope. Like we kind of know the direction we're gonna go. So
fast forward, we go to treatment. Amanda moves to Idaho, and towards the end of treatment, I didn't know what I was going to go to sober living after, but Amanda was still in Idaho, and I'm sitting here, I want to be there to be with her while she's pregnant and, be there for the kid. But we didn't know, we had so many people telling us we wouldn't make it, right?
Yeah, and that we needed to put the baby up for adoption.
Yeah, you guys...
Which, logically, that makes sense. Logically, that, like, we could totally see, like, okay, that makes sense, but we also needed to make the decision, and it didn't need to come from our parents or whoever else, So, what were you gonna?
No. And that, so we decided we're not putting her up for adoption. It's not.
Yeah, it was probably the hardest decision I ever made. I prayed and prayed and prayed. I talked to 3 different families. Like, what am I doing? It was so heavy because, at the time, I had my first ultrasound appointment. I, come to find out it was like 4.5 months along, when I got sober. And so a lot of shame and guilt. Like, I'm now that woman that's used while pregnant. What am I going to do? I have literally a garbage bag of clothes to my name. Like, how is this even going to happen? And I talked to the 3 different families. I would just sob. Like, I couldn't. It was so heavy. And then my mom said something that my grandpa said. I was about maybe almost 60 days sober. And she said, God draws straight with crooked lines. And I was like, that's pretty crazy. And it just kind of hit me. And so I'm like, well, let's just like think of if I did keep this baby, like what would that look like? And even with that thought, I had a friend who was like, hey, do you need baby clothes? Like, I have a tub. I'm not kidding. It's like the tub is huge. all full of baby clothes. And then my cousin who I was living with was like, well, we could throw you a baby shower and do like a necessity shower. So they just bring diapers and wipes. And so they did that. And I've never seen so many diapers in my life and wipes.
We didn't buy diapers for the first
for 10 months.
10 months of our
10
kids.
months.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a lot of diapers.
And so, a lot of diapers. And so I got a job where they offered me full-time maternity leave. Like I worked there a week and they were like, oh, I was like, by the way, I'm expecting. And they were like, okay, no problem. Like we actually really love what you're doing here and we'll pay you full-time maternity leave. And so It was just pretty crazy. Like all of these things started happening. I bought a car. My cousin had a friend and I bought a car for like $500, and it was like it was a piece of crap, but it wasn't,
Yeah.
It worked. It was safe. Yeah. And so
everything was falling into place.
Yeah, literally lining up.
So everything's falling in place for you, but what about you, Trevor?
I'm sitting in sober living and an outpatient with, the people working there that I worked with that were my friends, going back to a treatment center with my community of people that I worked for and then going back as a client was the most humbling thing I've ever done, right?
How did they treat you?
They were hard. Wasatch is a cutthroat program already as it is, but they turned it up times 10 for me, and the majority of people, they'll admit it to this day. If you ask them, they told me, do not move to Idaho. You're not going to make it work. But there was one person there who the entire time never gave up, and he said, you know what? If you want to be there for that kid and you think that you can, make it work with Amanda, he said, I support you. He said, you're going to have to do everything you can to make it work, right? And you're going to have to be on the same page and want it the same. He's like, there's so many different things that have to fall into place that you're probably going to fail. He said, but if you want to try, I support you. And I was sitting in a McDonald's drive-thru and I called Amanda and I said, hey, we hadn't talked in probably a month at that point because we were taking some time. And I just said, hey, and she's like, I can't believe you're calling. I called my dad, we talked for a little bit. I called my dad after and I said, hey, Dad, I'm moving to Idaho. And he said, this is the biggest mistake you're ever going to make or something like that, right? You're an idiot. He's like, we love Amanda like our own, but you guys are just not good for each other. And I said, well, here's the deal. That's what I'm doing. I said, so.
And tell him what you said. Because your dad always quotes this. Because then you said, but that child deserves a dad.
Yeah. Yeah. I did. Yeah, I said, that child deserves a dad. And I'm going to be there, right? And my dad said, okay, if that's what you're going to do, I'll be there tomorrow. And he drove down, helped me pack up the little bit that I had. In the meantime, Amanda happened to find a townhouse out there that was in our price range, and she had it all set up and was getting it ready. Within a week time frame, I moved down there. My dad stayed a couple days, helped us get set up, and I was working and she was working, and then we had a kid.
Yeah, we had to meet with the NICU, right? Like to make sure that everything she was going to be okay, and
because you had been using a little bit before.
Yeah, for 4.5 months. So
was she full term?
She was full term. Yeah.
No
so
NICU,
we met with the NICU. My doctor was amazing, zero shame. Like he was just amazing. Yeah. And she was born. And if you look back at all the pictures, I just am sobbing. She was. We got to take her home after 2 days. Like there was zero issues. I mean, and she is the sassiest, funniest little 4-year-old with red hair that you'll ever meet. Like she's it's crazy. It's out of this world.
Well, she's darling. You showed us the pictures of her.
She's so
beautiful.
Crazy. It's nuts.
So you move in. You're both working in Idaho. You're defying all the odds. You're winning at this point.
Mm-hmm.
We are winning. It was people couldn't believe it, really.
Yeah.
But I didn't know what I wanted to do. Amanda was going back to school, decided to go back to school, so she was doing some online classes, working. And I ended up deciding to go to barber school. That's something that I had talked about doing for a long time.
Well, we got married before barber school.
Oh, yeah. We got married, and barber school started a month later. We came back here and got married with all our family and friends, and then went back out to Idaho. And the whole time, we don't know anyone out there, right? So we didn't really have a, physical support system. We had people on the phone and people we talked to, but as you guys may know, when you leave, a lot of people don't reach out. Right?
No.
And you kind of find out who your real friends are. And when I decided to do barber school, I just said, I need to do something that we're going to have to fall back on. Even if I end up hating it, at least I have a trade that will never go anywhere, right? So I completed barber school. She's going to school. And then I end up starting my own business, a barber shop out in Idaho. And we were doing that for a little bit, and we would come back down and visit all the time, right? Because this was where all our friends and family were. So we'd make the drive, And every time, for the last 2 years, every time we would leave, our daughter would cry until we get to the border.
Her and I both.
Till we got to the border. And she'd say, why can't we just live here? This is where my cousins, my grandma, everybody is. Why do we not live here? And then I was thinking for about 6 months prior to bringing it up to Amanda, I was like, I'm being so selfish.
We got pregnant with Bodie.
Yeah.
So now we're pregnant with Bodie at this point.
Yeah, we're pregnant with Bodie.
With our son.
And we're still traveling back and forth. And I was like...
it was after he was born. It was the first trip we took with him, so he was like 6 weeks.
Yeah.
He got to meet grandparents. Like, it was just great. We came back home.
And she's sobbing the whole way again. And I was like, I'm being selfish. I was like, I'm selfish. I selfishly don't want to live in Idaho because my memories are so bad. You know what I mean?
You mean in Utah.
In Utah.
Yeah.
In Utah because my memories are so bad, right? I was like, I didn't grow up here, but when I moved here, everything was drug-related, whether it was recovery or I was Trevor the addict, right? So when I had moved to Idaho, I didn't even talk about who I was. The people that I met in barber school, the people that I met at jobs, they didn't even know I was an addict. I just went about my life, and I wanted to reinvent myself, right?
Well, that conditioning's powerful. Like the strong feelings we have become associated with people, places, and events. And when we change, then those people, places, and events can elicit back those old feelings. And so that makes 100% sense from a behavioral standpoint that, coming back to Utah, you went back, you even just named yourself Trevor the Addict, right? So those feelings and thoughts would recur. And that's a powerful thing. I could see why you wouldn't want to come back.
But you decide to pack up the family and move back.
Yep, we moved back.
Well, I got a job offer prior. So he brought it up. He was like, hey, I kind of been thinking about Utah. And we were like, we're never going to move back, So I'm like, oh my gosh. I'd been thinking about it too. So I'm like, why do you say that? Like, I was convinced I don't know. It was so weird how we both kind of thought about it. And so I reached out to my uncle and got a job, and they were letting me work in Idaho for a treatment center in Utah prior to us moving. And so we were like, man, it got the job within us even bringing it up so we brought it up, and a week later I had the job, so pretty crazy. And so we packed up the family and moved down. And it was like everything just aligned, like housing is it's pretty hard to find something, found the perfect spot for us. Our daughter Scotty was so excited. I mean, she was like, it was like a dream come true, Yeah. We moved down, and he's like, and you can tell about you.
Well, and I closed up the barber shop, and I was like, I'm going to cut hair. I'll figure out something when I get down here. I have a couple friends that own barber shops down here. And when I got down here, I just didn't want to do it. I just didn't. At the time, I was just like, I don't want to have to rebuild my clientele. I don't want to have to restart from scratch. I was like, but I do love helping people. So I was like, I'm going to just kind of see what's out there as far as jobs go in the recovery field again. It's what I know. I've done it before. And I reached out to one of my friends, and he said, no, we don't have an opening right now. If we do, we'll let you know, but let me pass your info along. Within 20 minutes, I had a call from the job that I have now, and I went up and interviewed and got offered the job on the spot. And it's insane how quick everything. We trusted our gut. Everything just came together. And, we had family members. You don't want to move back here.
Yeah.
You're going to hate it. Or, Idaho's your safe place. This is where, you guys change your life. Stay out there. But it's been nothing but blessings since we moved back.
We haven't regretted it one minute,
How long have you been back in Utah?
Since June.
Yeah.
Okay, so going on.
7 months.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What I love about you guys is that you fought for your family.
Yeah.
And you were told it wasn't a good idea. But you said your daughter deserves a dad.
Yeah.
And you fought for him, and here you guys are once again defying all odds. And now you guys got how much sobriety underneath?
We just celebrated 5 years on the 14th of December.
Oh, that's awesome.
Amazing.
Yep.
And you know what's great is that I have somebody who quit drinking when I did, and that was my dad, because he didn't want to ask me to do something he wasn't sure if he could do. So me and my dad have the same sobriety date, and you guys have the same sobriety date.
That's awesome.
And I look at you guys, and I see how emotional Trevor gets, and I see the pride, Amanda, that you have every time you look over and you see that man next to you, and it just fills my heart so much. I mean, it's amazing. And so you guys are both working in the recovery community. You've got 2 kids. And life seems to be going good.
Yep. Yeah. It's really good. I don't have any complaints.
No, it's It's been amazing being back. Yeah.
So what advice would you have out there for those who are battling addiction, who might be in a situation similar to yours where they're husband and wife or boyfriend and girlfriend or whatever it may be? What advice would you give them?
Well, I think for me, like when we got back together and we were bringing this child in, we had those really hard conversations, you know, to the point where it's like, if you use once, me talking to him, you're out. If I use once, I'm out. Like we're not putting this child at risk. And so I had to be selfish enough, and that's kind of what my advice would be, is that you have to be willing to keep yourself safe, even if that meant we could not stay together. It just so happened that he was in that exact same place. And so he was willing to have those hard conversations and to again, you know, if you're not going to be sober, then you have to get out. He felt the same about our daughter and our life. That's the weird thing
about boundaries is that, you know, boundaries are there to protect them and you, you know, and most of the time we think it's just to protect them, but you've also got to be able to protect you and what's important to you. And you've got two little beautiful children in this world, and both of you, they deserve to have both of you, but they need to have one of you for sure.
Yes.
Yeah. And they haven't and will never see us high. You know what I mean? And that was a promise that we made to each other and to ourselves. I mean, looking at us now, it's like life's good, but it was hard. It was really hard, and it was a lot of hard conversations, like you said, but it was a lot of figuring out who we were again, doing it simultaneously in a state where we knew no one. You know what I mean? And it being out there with nobody helped us rely on each other, support each other. We were the only ones for each other out there, so we had to push through.
Dr. Matt, what are your thoughts? This has been an amazing episode.
Oh, it's been a lot of fun.
I love the love. I love the candor. Yeah. I love everything about this.
I like how neither one of them can be on the same page of when a date or time was.
That's how you know it's true love.
That's how you know they're married, and it's true love. Yeah,
totally.
Yeah. I actually was thinking, and I think you just emphasized it, Trevor, commitment mindset. So I'm a cognitive psychologist, and so our perspective, how we think about things, determines the rest of our experience most of the time. And when a person's struggling, when they're depressed, sometimes I say they have manure-colored glasses on because everything looks crappy, right? And so when we're struggling, when we're in addiction, when we're in depression, we see all the challenges. We get hung up on real problems that are in our lives. When you have a commitment mindset to a positive change, the difference is the perspective. It's not that those problems and challenges go away. You just said, Trevor, it was really hard. But all of a sudden you start to see these opportunities. You make the phone calls, that magical things seem to happen afterwards. Like all this, we could say like, oh, once you guys got sober, everything good just started to fall into place. And in some ways it did. But the bad stuff wasn't not there. It's just your commitment mindset shifts your perspective to where now you're so focused on the good things that that's what you're attracting in life, right? And so I would say there's so many cool takeaways of being able to talk to you guys. You have a fun energy, and I'm really impressed that you'd be willing to come on and share your story. But I hope people will realize that what you're saying is these good things will start to steamroll in your life, but it's because you have this commitment to change. And I think having children helped you guys have that commitment. And obviously you really like each other. So like, you know, your commitment to each other and I think probably most importantly to yourself. So thank you for demonstrating that, because it's a hard principle to demonstrate, because we usually just see like the outcome, like, oh, you know, you got the phone call and then you got the job and then the car, and, you know, all these things just kind of fell into place. And it's like, no. All the hard stuff was still there, but your perspective shifted because you were committed to that positive change, which I think is a beautiful example of recovery.
And they did the work. Like you sit there and you talk about Trevor sitting in the parking lot of Smith's, and Mark calls him and he goes, I don't know why I'm doing this.
Right.
And maybe we don't know why he was doing this, but I'm pretty sure the 3 weeks of constant phone calls before played a part in it.
My back.
So what I want to say is, don't let yourself off the hook for not doing the work, because you guys have done the work. That's so much.
Persistence always pays off.
You know, and that's what the people they say is that, you know, it's like, well, you know, you did the work to get there. You had to stay sober. You had to make the calls. You had to do this. You did the work. Yeah, the fact that phone call and it was amazing and it came when you needed it was awesome. but you did the work to put yourself in that situation to be able to receive that.
And he didn't squander the opportunity.
Yeah.
Did not squander the opportunity. Before we let you go, what recovery centers are you both working for, just in case somebody wants to reach out to you guys or find out a little bit more about you?
I'm at Wasatch Crest Treatment Services up in Heber City. We're a 20-bed facility up there. We're planning on opening an 18-bed female facility over in Park City, Utah. We're hoping beginning of February that it will be open. If you're struggling or a loved one struggling, you can feel free to reach out to us. Our admissions line is 1-800-385-3507.
Amanda, you are?
And I'm at Liberty Addiction Recovery. Soon I won't be there, but great program. They're just a small facility in Bluffdale, so 12 beds. So, yeah.
You guys are all over the state.
Yeah.
All over.
Yeah.
I love it. This is the best way to start a new year.
Yes, I agree. I feel rejuvenated.
Better me in 23.
Yeah.
It is true. It's true.
That's alliteration. I love it. Hey, thank you guys for stopping by and listening to another podcast. We call it Project Recovery. In case you forgot, Project Recovery is what?
You know what? In 2023,
Yeah.
it's a KSL podcast.
The contents of this program are for informational purposes only. The program is not intended to be a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Always seek the advice of your physician, licensed therapist, or other qualified health provider with any questions you may have regarding a medical condition. Never disregard professional medical advice or delay in seeking it because of something you've heard on this program. KSL does not recommend or endorse any specific tests, physicians, products, procedures, opinions, or other information that may be mentioned on the program. Reliance on any information provided on the program is solely at your own risk.